This is Dr. Paul Firnhaber, and it's time for 10 Minutes of Truth. We're doing this a day later this week, but we're still doing it. So the topic today is about articles that I've done in the past, but this has really come up in the last week. And I think it's a really important topic to discuss. It's the relationship between acetaminophen or Tylenol and autism. So this last week, Health Secretary Robert Kennedy, by the way, who I really like, plans to announce that the use of Tylenol by pregnant women may be linked to autism in children, according to a report last Friday in the Wall Street Journal, which the Department of Health and Human Services was speculation. So Kennedy wants to do undertake a massive testing and research effort to determine the cause of autism. And then this is an article from CBS News, which is dated September 5th. So my answer to that is that's finally someone is taking autism seriously. Finally, someone really wants to find the cause. Because I haven't seen anyone or any government agency or official up until this point that even seemed to care. So it's this article from CBS News, which I wouldn't say is the paragon of unbiased news reporting, since they get enormous amounts of revenue from the pharmaceutical industry, says Kennedy has in the past made the unfounded claim that autism is a preventable disease, drawing heavy criticism from many medical experts. Well, medical experts disagree with one another all the time, as do lawyers, as do engineers, as does anybody. So, it depends on which medical expert. In a statement provided to CBS News on Friday, an HHS spokesperson called the journal's report speculation. It says, "We are using gold standard science to get to the bottom of America's unprecedented rise in autism rates. Until we release the final report, any claims about its contents are nothing more than speculation." Now, here's a really interesting statement. In a separate statement in response to the Wall Street Journal story, Ken Vu, the maker of Tylenol, whose active ingredient is acetaminophen, said, "We have continuously evaluated the science and continue to believe that there's no causal link between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and autism." Well, what are they going to say? Are they going to say, "Hey, yeah, we found it. We found that our drug causes autism"? That's ridiculous. Of course, they're not going to say that. And they say, "We continue to believe." Well, believe based on what? That's just, anytime a pharmaceutical company comes out and defends its drug against a side effect, that's basically, as far as I'm concerned, fake news. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said in a statement provided to CBS News on Friday that there's no clear evidence that proves a direct relationship between the prudent use of acetaminophen during pregnancy and fetal development issues. Well, what's the prudent use? What does that mean? What's the definition of that? It says neurodevelopmental disorders in particular are multifactorial and very difficult to associate with a singular cause. The American College of Gynecology said pregnant patients should not be frightened away from the many benefits of acetaminophen, which is safe and one of the few options pregnant women have for pain relief. Well, I don't know where they're getting, they haven't provided any solid evidence to say that, which again is interesting because I'm sure that CBS News gets money from the Tylenol company. I don't know that for a fact, but I know that their commercials are laced with pharmaceutical industry advertisements. CBS News chief medical correspondent, Dr. John LaPook, said he is looking forward to reading the upcoming report pledged by Kennedy, especially the evidence behind any conclusions and recommendations. I spoke this afternoon to a researcher who was part of a major study published last year that followed 2.5 million children in Sweden over 25 years, LaPook said. He said use of acetaminophen was not associated with an increase of autism risk in children. So let's look at another article that just came out this year, August, okay? This is in the journal called Environmental Health, August 14th, 2025. And the name of the article is Evaluation of the Evidence of Acetaminophen Use and Neurodevelopmental Disorders Using the Navigation Guide Methodology. Now, this article comes from the Icahn School of Medicine, Mount Sinai in New York City, University of California, Los Angeles, University of Massachusetts, and Harvard University. Funding for this study, now understand this, was supported by the National Institutes of Health. So, this is a government-funded study. Now, let's look at the key points from this article. The developmental embryonic and fetal brain is especially vulnerable to environmental exposures because of incomplete development of the blood-brain barrier and the ongoing growth, differentiation, and pruning of neurons throughout early childhood. Early exposures to chemicals, toxicants, pharmacologic agents, and other exogenous agents can alter normal neurodevelopment and have long-lasting effects, including neurodevelopmental disorders. Well, that's an interesting statement coming from this article from the National Institutes of Health, as opposed to what I just read from CBS News. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology have reassured patients that acetaminophen is safe to take during pregnancy. Acetaminophen is the most common used over-the-counter pain and fever medication taken during pregnancy, with over 50% of pregnant women using acetaminophen worldwide. So it quotes correctly the ACOG. Numerous well-designed studies have indicated that pregnant mothers exposed to acetaminophen have children diagnosed with neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism spectrum disorder and ADHD, at higher rates than children of pregnant mothers who are not exposed to acetaminophen. So there's a bomb they're dropping in this article. They said majority of studies reported positive associations of prenatal acetaminophen use with ADHD, ASD, and NDDs, which is neurodevelopmental disorders, in offspring. The obtained scores suggest strong evidence of a likely relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and the risk of ADHD in children, including high-quality studies that provide very strong evidence of an association and studies that provide strong evidence of an association. It looks like it's a little bit redundant. Okay. So the conclusion of this article is our analysis using the navigation guide does support evidence consistent with an association between acetaminophen exposure during pregnancy and increased incidence of neurodevelopment disorders. Appropriate and immediate steps should be taken to advise pregnant women to limit acetaminophen consumption to protect their offspring's neural development. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs may pose teratogenic risks, meaning they cause deformities, particularly in the third trimester, leaving no pharmacological alternative. experimental studies have shown a biological plausibility of a potential adverse effect of acetaminophen on the fetal brain. Acetaminophen freely crosses a placental barrier, reaching levels in fetal circulation similar to maternal circulation within less than an hour of maternal digestion. Acetaminophen interferes with the cytochrome P450 detoxification enzyme, which is one of the most important detoxification mechanisms in the body and the liver. Now, I have covered literally 13 articles that relate acetaminophen use to autism. And I'm going to just say some of these articles or review them. So in 2013, there's an article that came out, says empirical data confirm autism spectrum symptoms related to aluminum and acetaminophen exposures. In 2014, there were 5 articles that said the same thing. Can autism be triggered by acetaminophen activation of the endocannabinoid system? In 2014, evidence that increased acetaminophen use in genetically vulnerable children appears to be a major cause of epidemics of autism and ADHD and asthma. Another article in 2014, prenatal and perinatal analgesic exposure and autism. Another article in 2014, acetaminophen use during pregnancy, behavioral problems, and hyperkinetic disorders. Another article in 2014, did acetaminophen provoke the autism epidemic? And we go to 2016, association of acetaminophen use during pregnancy with behavioral problems in childhood. 2017, the role of oxidative stress, inflammation, and acetaminophen exposure from birth to early childhood in the induction of autism. 2018, acetaminophen use modifies the salvation of sex hormones. 2021, prenatal and postnatal exposure to acetaminophen in relation to autism spectrum and ADHD syndromes in childhood. So there's 3 more articles I could quote, but I think I've made my point. What more evidence do they need? And, maybe they should do a big study on it, and they probably should, but look at all the science that has been published on this subject. And now they're lambasting Robert Kennedy because he brought it up. I think Kennedy is doing the right thing. He's the only one who's had the courage to do this, and I support him. And I would say this to all you pregnant women out there, be very cautious with taking acetaminophen or Tylenol while you're pregnant. So that's all I have to say today. This is Dr. Paul Firnhaber with 10 Minutes of Truth. We're at Lincoln Disc and Nutrition Center here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Our number is 402-488-2220. If you have any health issues, we'd love to talk to you about them. We do things here naturally and scientifically. I'll see you next week for 10 Minutes of Truth.